This is DW News live from Berlin. Germany's leaders vow to fight racism. The nation's leaders are visiting refugees around the country to see firsthand the challenges they face. We'll ask our correspondent if they can stop local resentment turning to violence after a spate of attacks. Also coming up on the program, equity markets remain volatile. Shares fall again in China, while stocks in Europe are lower after the global sell-off at the start of the week. And Swedish doctors make medical history. Using transplanted wombs, they've helped 4 mothers give birth. I'm Terry Martin. Thanks for joining us. Germany is wheeling out its heavy hitters in the fight against anti-immigrant violence. The nation's president, Joachim Gauck, has visited asylum seekers in Berlin today, while Chancellor Angela Merkel is arriving in Heidenau near Dresden. The small town has become a focal point of anti-immigration protests after rioters fought pitched battles with police last weekend. Merkel condemned the scenes in a statement on Tuesday, but faced criticism for her slow reaction. Now she must convince a skeptical nation that record numbers of refugees should be welcomed with open arms.
Chancellor Merkel is going on the offensive to reassure Germans who are concerned about the number of foreigners entering the country. On Tuesday, she spoke with citizens in Marxloh. Many people there work to welcome asylum seekers, but the economically weak district in the city of Duisburg still has struggled to integrate newcomers. The problem is, what signal are we sending? This year, we're going to get 800,000 asylum seekers or refugees from civil war. We must help those that really need help. Now Merkel is headed to Heidenau, the scene of ugly confrontations last weekend near a temporary home for asylum seekers. Some say Merkel should have gone there much earlier. On Monday, Vice-Chancellor Sigmar Gabriel visited the town and condemned racist attacks on people from broken countries. Gabriel's visit triggered a flood of angry mail and phone calls directed at his party, the Social Democrats. On Tuesday, a bomb threat forced police to evacuate party headquarters in Berlin. No bomb was found, but Germany's political leaders take the incident seriously. It is meant as a threat against us all, an attack against our constitution and our democracy. It was the latest in a series of incidents that have shocked Germany. Earlier this week, 2 facilities that were being prepared for asylum seekers burned to the ground. Police suspect arson in both cases. And they're just the latest of dozens of attacks and incidents aimed at asylum seekers coming to Germany.
Well, let's cross to Heidenau now. Our correspondent Naomi Conrad is standing by there. Naomi, tell us more about why Chancellor Merkel is visiting Heidenau today and the expectations surrounding her visit.
Well, she's visiting because, as we heard earlier on, there have been huge riots here against the asylum seekers' shelter here. I talked to some of the asylum seekers earlier. They said they were scared. They said it's such a beautiful place here, but people are just idiots. We don't know why they hate us. So she's finally come here after several days of rioting. It's quite calm today to say something. People here expect strong words, and we will see what she has to say in just over an hour.
Is she expected to strike a tone as strong as that struck earlier in Berlin today by the president, by the German president Joachim Gauck? He spoke out very strongly against those who were involved in the anti-immigrant violence.
Yes, he did. And in fact, Angela Merkel also came out quite strongly on Monday when she said that the events here had been repulsive, that this was not the kind of Germany she wanted. At this point, we can only speculate about what she may or may not say in just under an hour. But I assume that her words will be as strong and that she will have quite a lot to say about Heidenau and anti-migration incidents, arson attacks in the last couple of years more generally.
Now, a lot of the media attention is focusing on exactly where you are, in Heidenau, where there has been violence. There have been buildings burned down that were intended to house the immigrants. Tell us, is Heidenau a unique example of anti-immigrant sentiment in Germany, or are there other Heidenaus throughout the country?
Well, we've seen an increase in arson attacks in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks. So it's not an isolated case at this point. But we have to also see that the NPD, the right-wing party here, seems to have been behind the attacks. They orchestrated the attacks. They organized Facebook groups. So it's likely that they might organize attacks in some other place in the future. We just don't know. But it is always a possibility, of course. And that's the big fear in Germany and across Europe, I would say.
Now, Germany is expecting around 800,000 migrants this year. That far exceeds any expectations that they had. Authorities, to some degree, are overwhelmed. What are authorities doing to dampen down the anti-foreigner sentiment and prevent the kinds of attacks that we've seen so far?
Well, at this point, authorities are scrambling to accommodate the many asylum seekers that are arriving. They're being put in tents and at very short notices in small communities like Heidenau. And it's very hard for authorities to dampen any kind of racism, xenophobia here at this short notice. Sometimes authorities only find out 2, maybe only 3 days before asylum seekers arrive. So it's obviously quite hard to deal with the situation on the ground.
Naomi, thank you very much for now. Naomi Conrad there in Heidenau.
Thank you.
I need a haircut like that. Well, Swedish doctors have made medical history by pioneering a technique for transplanting the uterus. It's giving fresh hope to women born without a womb or who've lost theirs to cancer. So far, 4 babies have come into the world thanks to the method, but one of them has a story that's particularly intriguing, a story that spans the generations.
It was a moment they believed would never happen. Last November, this Swedish couple held their baby for the first time. The boy was delivered from the very same womb that had once carried his own mother.
But when we came home, it was...
9 months on, the boy is growing like any other child. He's fed his favourite food, spaghetti. His parents don't want their identities revealed, but they want the story of his genesis told and the role played by his mother's mother.
She has done the most amazingly thing someone could ever do for another one, and she's also my son's grandmother, so it's well, it's undescribable.
When she was in her 20s, the boy's mother lost her uterus to cancer. She thought she'd never have a child. But then she heard of a possible solution and approached her own mother.
I just asked her if donating her uterus was something she would do. And she just said, of course.
The revolutionary procedure was developed at this Gothenburg hospital. In many hours of surgery, the team transferred the womb from mother to daughter. A year later, she became pregnant with an embryo fertilized by IVF. So far, 4 babies have been born this way, but only one has such a special story.
Of course, it's special that you actually, one uterus is used bridging 3 generations. That's very, very special. But in medical terms, it's special because you actually make maximum usage of an organ. It has given birth and cannot be used for that woman, and then it can be put in another woman. In this case, it's the daughter, and be used again.
Doctors say many thousands of women could be helped using the technique. So far, the Swedish team is the only one to have carried it out successfully. But they're working with doctors around the world, hoping that many more children can be born to women who currently have no uterus.
But when we came home, he was taking so much food in. Upp! Satte mig ner för då hamnade jag i kameran.
Hej pappen! Hallå! Åh, så gott! Vad gott!
I think my mom and dad. She has done the most amazingly thing someone could ever do for another one, and she's also my son's grandmother. So it's well, it's undescribable. I just asked her if donating her uterus was something she would do, and she just said, of course.
Of course, it's special that you actually, one uterus is used breaching 3 generations. That's very, very special. But in medical terms, it's special because you actually make maximum usage of an organ. It has given birth and cannot be used for that woman, and then it can be put in another woman. In this case, it's the daughter, and be used again.
Denna parkeringsställen är mycket längre.